You may have played poker, but playing poker in Texas is a different animal. This is the Texas Poker Podcast with Tyler and Clint.
Hello, this is the Texas Poker Podcast. I'm Tyler. This is Clint.
What's up, y'all?
And we are back with episode 68.
68, and me and Tyler aren't fresh off a session, but I am fresh off a session.
Let me paint a picture for you. I was going to meet Clint at the poker room. I called and I was like, hey, how long were you planning on staying? And he's like, oh. So I assumed he was in a big hand. And then about a minute later, he's just like, I just got massively cooler. And then I was like, well, I'm not driving out for that.
Yeah. Okay, going into the session, I kind of caught the tournament bug lately, and I had originally thought to do the tournament, but the big problem is I find those so fun, but they're either not going to be profitable in the long run, or they're very minorly profitable. So it's kind of hard when that's kind of what you've been wanting to do, but it's not the best decision and best way to make use of your time. So I kind of was coming off that, but I got there a little bit after the tournament started, and I was like, okay, well, this is good. I can do cash anyways. It's what I really need to. So I really need to sit down and put some grinding hours in. I start off just red hot. I play a bomb pot. I flop a set of aces on one board, which is the complete and total nuts, and just an overpair on the other board that's very connected. So a player bets 15, another one calls, I pop for 105, another guy calls, the other guy just talks massive shit about me bullying, which I hadn't, it'd been 15 to 20 minutes I had not played a hand when I first got there. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
I mean, is this someone you played with before?
He looked like I recognized him a little bit, but not one of the regulars. But you would be proud. I mean, I'm always responding to stuff like this, we'll say. I just let it go. Well, the turn is kind of shitty for me. It makes a straight on the pocket aces board. So, and then the other board is just was already shitty and gotten shittier. But that being said,
so what do you have on the other board that's not the set of aces?
Just an overpair.
Okay.
But it's something like 7-5-3 or something.
But most of us, whenever you play these bomb pots, you're not assuming an overpair is good in a PLO bomb pot, correct?
100%.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think it's good. I mean, I think there is a small chance if he happens to be playing the one where I have a set of aces on, I might be.
But this is multi-way, though, right?
No, this is now heads up.
Okay, gotcha. That's where I was confused. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it was a bet, a call, I make it 105, and only one player calls. So the turn makes a straight, but it's not a real obvious straight. And I'm like, it didn't complete like an open-ender or anything like that. So I'm like, well, I can't just assume he hits this. I pot it, and he goes into the tank for 3 minutes maybe, and ends up folding. And he had a straight on, from what he said he had, which seemed very legitimate, should never be folding there. Because he said he had a straight on the top board, the one I didn't have a set on. And I think he had two pair on the, it was all hands. I was like, God damn, it should, if he was being legitimate, which it seemed like he was, should have been a snap call. So I don't know. The whole thing was kind of weird for me. But when he folded and said that, I was super glad he folded, though.
No, absolutely. Which is why you always say you should bet your PLO hands whenever you have, a nutted hand. But this wasn't quite nutted, but that's why you bet so hard, is to get them off their equity on the other board that you might not have as much.
Exactly. You want to, if you're chopping, you don't want to be chopping that. So you want to lean on them and put some pressure. So I take down a pretty good pot, and then Omaha, about 15 minutes later, I get ace, 9-6 single suited to the ace. I raise to 20 and 3 call. Flop is ace 9-9.
So you have a boat. The 9 ace is full.
Yeah, I got aces full. Shit, you take one of my aces away, I actually got 9s full of aces.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, it was like $85, $90 in the pot. I bet 30 because I literally don't know what anybody can have here, but I feel like I do need to try to get some money in the pot. And I'm like, well, this is probably just gonna fold to me almost every time. Well, 2 call. Don't know what in the hell they have. On the turn, I just wrote, "Who really cares?" I mean, there's very few turns that would not make me that where don't have the nuts here. I bet 100 and then both fold, which I was fine with because, I mean, really, I didn't expect to get hardly any value on the flop. I mean, there's nothing out there. I think there was a flush draw, so I guess one might have been on a flush draw, calling on a paired board, but I did give pretty good odds.
Do you ever think about betting like 30 or 50? I mean, you're so locked up there. You even have one of the other 9s to deny quads.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you're 100% right, but it was like 185 in the pot at that point.
Oh, no, I know. When you're so nutted and you know most likely they're both going to call with almost no equity, it depends how deep you are, but I was kind of thinking maybe you did like 50, 60, not 100.
You probably have a good point, because, I mean, then, like, I'm giving them such good odds to chase a flush, and then if they do hit a flush, are they chasing that the entire way just to fold it to, a regular-sized bet?
Right, exactly.
So I kind of like your thought process there. In the moment, when you flop just that good, you're kind of just stunned for a minute.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
So but looking back at it, not just because of the results of they both folding, but I do think you do have a really good point. So I am just killing it right now. I mean, it's like an hour in. I'm up like $350 or whatever. But then I kind of run into like a kind of string of cards, and there's no interesting hands here. It's a lot of little pocket pairs where I'm getting really good odds to draw to a set, and I miss a couple other hands that just miss, and kind of get whittled down to where I'm up like 125, 150. I get into a very interesting hand. It is limped around, and the player raises to 20. And he's on the cutoff. I'm on the button. I have pocket jacks. I make it 70 to go.
Okay, I like all this.
Okay. Weirdly enough, one of the limp that limped in for 3 now cold calls a 70.
Seems reasonable. Go ahead.
I mean, you can't beat this game, I don't know what we're supposed to do here, which we're about to find out. It's a then it comes back around to this other guy who raised it to 20, and I'm a little nervous. Whenever I 3-bet jacks, it has not gone well for me in the past, but since everybody says I should 3-bet jacks, I keep doing it like a moron. This guy is kind of, and I'm like, this is going to be a problem, because I think he's going to jam, and he's got, at the very minimum, ace-king, and I think he's got me beat. He kind of hems and haws for a long time. He ends up making the fold. The flop is 10-8-4. The player's got like 200 behind. He checks. I bet 100. And then he jams for his other 100.
Well, I mean, this all seems good.
I mean, I don't love it because I'm like, well, this seems like, well, after I thought about it, I was like, pocket tens doesn't make any sense. Queens, kings, aces are never limping and just not re-raising there. So I make the call. I mean, I'm getting insane odds with an overpair, so definitely. And he has ace-king. So
right. I mean, I was thinking that it was the move that you bet 100 to get the all-in here, right? That's what you wanted. I mean, that seemed like a good bet to me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 100%. Oh, I'm exactly where I want to be. The guy who folded to me that originally raised is like, oh, God, I'm an idiot. He folded queens.
I mean, I can confirm.
So I'm like, oh, thank God. So now I'm in a massive pot. It was a huge favorite. We run it twice. He hits a king on the first board and hits runner, runner straight on the second board to scoop. Yeah. It was pretty tough to be as a 75% favorite and not be able to win one of the pots.
Yeah, that's that one's super tough. That's super sad. So I only run it once, so it doesn't feel as bad.
Yeah, so the suck out at least, it's a
because this is a disaster.
I mean, this is such a disaster. So that puts me down pretty hard, and from there I just cannot get anything going. Not getting good cards, not getting good flops, and just whittle it down to like where I bought my original buy-in was for 400. I ended up cashing out for 150. It was just, it just took the wind out of me God, I'm like an 80. I think I'm like an 88% favorite to like at least win one of the pots. So that was pretty, just murdered me. So that was a session I just came off of. Now, do you like 3-betting the jacks there?
Yeah, no, I think it was played good throughout.
Okay.
I like the 100 bet. I like the 100 size bet on the flop to get the committed them all in. Like it all seemed good.
Okay.
I mean, it's just not your day to win, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, well, the result, 100%. I love the result of getting, all my money in was 75%. Is a 75% favorite. I'm taking that every day of the week.
Yeah, I thought everything. I mean, I thought everything was played well, and after that, it doesn't matter. So,
but 3-betting jacks just seems to be horrible for me, and I literally got lucky that someone was able to fold queens.
Yeah, what a horrible fold. But I mean, that should be an all-in every time over to pinch out that. Well, the guy with ace king is still calling, but more incentivized to 4-bet when you have a flat behind. So 3 ways.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I told myself if he jammed, I was just going to fold.
Well, it would have been a jam and a call, right? Or were you were next to act?
I was next to act. So, once he jams there, at the very least, he's got ace king. I'm drawing to 50-50, and it seemed like he had better. I thought he might actually have kings, the way he was hemming and hawing and everything.
Well, and you still have the guy behind you, too. Well, I guess, with the all-in...
It's hard to put him as strong as ace-king when he limped in pre-flop.
I was expecting the limp all-in, whatever, with aces from when this story started. That's what I was expecting, just because that's this type of game.
Yeah, that would make perfect sense. I don't know. If he does that, I'd probably just fold because that seems to be aces every time. Talk about, I guess you should be limping aces if that's going to happen, a bet and a re-raise. But yeah, it was a kind of an interesting spot. I'm kind of on the like I say, I know you should be 3-betting jacks, but it's not gone well for me. So we'll have to see how I end up playing this. But with that guy being on the cutoff, felt like I was even better bet.
What if you did this? This is something that is going to go against all the training sites and everything. This is just pure theory crafting for you losing with jacks 3-betting.
Okay.
What if you still 3-bet, but you size down a little bit more? Maybe adjust your 3-bet sizing on this. Like, be completely exploitative. Bet big with your good aces, ace king, kings, and then 3-bet, but maybe instead of doing like 70, maybe do like 55.
Well, I think the problem with that is, yeah, that's probably a pretty good idea.
Because you always hate when you get 4-bet with them, right? So then you could still fold and lose less if someone's slow playing something, and it would make the pot a little bit smaller.
Well, and then I was going to say, it's kind of a hard hand to play, like, post-flop, unless you get, like, a flop like I did. And on that one. But it shouldn't be that hard to play. I mean, because you're looking at it, and once they just call that 3-bet, well, now aces and kings are out of their range usually. Even the nittiest of players are going to probably 4-bet aces and kings. So, I mean, at the very best, it's queens, and that's only one combination of an overpair. So probably not. That's probably a pretty good idea.
Just a thought. I know Jack's been giving you lots of troubles in the last few months. So I'll just maybe think about adjusting something other than doing the same thing over and over again.
That's not a bad idea. So that was that session. It was I want to do also. So this is completely off our usual topic of how he did and everything, but there are some stories that I read about that I do feel need to be shared, and I don't know if you'd heard about it. So this guy tweets he's got terminal cancer of the brain, and he's inoperable. So he's going to die. He tweets that he wants to do the WSOP main event before he goes, and he's trying to get people to take 70% of his action. A lot of people are taking to kind of help him out or whatever. I got to give major props to huge high-stakes player, MJ Gonzalez, who tells everybody not to worry about it, that instead of selling his action, he's going to put the player in for the entire $10,000, and he can keep all of his action.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I was like, with all the crappy stories that go around poker, the possible cheating and all that, I feel like stories like that don't get enough run. And I read that today, and I was like, that is a freaking amazing story. So I got to give really big props to that poker pro, MJ Gonzalez. He got a new fan. He definitely got a new fan today.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you remember where you read it at, or you just saw it through Facebook?
I saw it through Facebook. I think one of the Houston players. I kind of sometimes go down these rabbit hole of Houston players. I think Josh Burkhalter, who's not even a Facebook friend of mine, but somehow I ended up on that page, and he had that story, and then I went and looked it up to make sure it was legit before I said anything about it, and sure enough, it was legit.
Oh, wow, that is awesome.
So, I mean, it's a detour, but I felt like that's definitely something we needed to give mention to.
A detour worth taking for sure.
Yeah.
I guess you want to talk about is that the end of that session?
That is the sad ending of that session. I mean, which is not the worst. I mean, buying in for 150, buying in for 400, losing 150, not that bad. But when it starts to go up, and you're like, ooh, this could be one of those to write home about. Then not great, but it's that was the end of that session.
Well, so then we went and met at Paramount, right?
We went and we played at Paramount probably last Thursday, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess do you remember any of your hands? I remember my hands. You want me to start?
Yeah. Go ahead and start with your hands.
So the session starts off, and I start off okay. I take down maybe one or two pots and maybe win. There's 1-2, so I win. I'm up like $30, maybe something like that.
Okay.
Nothing too crazy happens. And then the bomb pot happens. PLO bomb pot. I have 6-3. I think it was like 9-10. 9-10 of hearts, 6-3 offsuit. The flop comes 2, 4, 5 on one board, and then I flop just a gutter with a backdoor flush draw on the other board.
Oh, I thought you had a front door flush draw when you.
I might have. Did I?
Well, you said flush draw. I just assumed it was a front door.
When did it might have been a front door flush draw because it would make more sense for this hand.
Okay, so you had
I had a gutter and a front door flush draw.
So you flop the complete stone cold nuts in a straight on one board, and then you flop a gutter and we're gonna say some type of flush draw on the other board.
Yeah, I guess you're probably right because given the run out, I guess it would make sense as a front door flush draw. But so I pot it. So I guess that one guy leads out for like 20. I pot it, and it was like 105.
That sounds about right.
Another guy calls for all in for less, but almost 105. It was like maybe 190, something like that. and another guy calls. And this is one of those situations. Yeah, it was a front door flush because I was like, someone is probably on the same straight as me, but I'm hopefully free rolling the other board.
Right.
The turn pairs both boards. And I was like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, that's a pretty shitty turn. That was a pretty shitty turn for you. I think you potted it for more because I think that guy had like 180. You said 180, and I think that was close to what y'all had.
Oh, he must have went all in. That's what it was. Action wasn't reopened because I asked if it was reopened.
That's right, you did. So you pot it for 105. He goes all in for like 180, but it doesn't reopen the action.
Yep.
But y'all both have him covered and call.
Yes.
And y'all both have not crazy amount, but some, like, I think it's probably like 150 to 200 behind.
About 150, yeah.
Okay.
Board pairs on both. He checks, and I was debating jamming almost everything, and I'm like, wow, that would be silly. So I check.
I love the check here.
I completely break my flush draw. Yeah, because the board paired. Yeah. So it was a front door flush draw. So then I brick on that board, and then the other board brings in like a flush 2 on my straight board. So I'm like, well, this is all sorts of bad.
Right.
So me and with the guy who were deep stack both had the same straight, but he boated on one of them.
When the board paired, he boated.
But luckily he didn't see it.
Yeah, because otherwise, I mean, there's just no way you're not betting this turn. I mean, like I was so confused on how he didn't bet this turn until you said that.
Well, he when he turned his cards over, we all thought the other guy was scooping until someone pointed it out to him.
Okay.
I mean, no one saw it until someone pointed it out. It was probably you. You always like to point that stuff out.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, good eye for it, right? It always speeds the game up, which is nice. So yeah, he had 2 pair and the same straight as me. Mm-hmm. The other guy had, what did he have? He had 2 pair and a flush draw?
Yeah, he flopped. So it couldn't have been the board y'all were playing. He flopped 2 pair, ace 9. Because I remember he had ace 9 and 2 spades. And I think, was it spade? It was spades that hit y'all's board, I think. I think he did get to the flush on the river.
No, he did.
So, I mean...
But the boat, so they chopped. Him and the other guy chopped because they both had boat over boat.
Yeah. This is one of those where I think I'm a little bit better at split pot games than you. And I'll usually give you some advice on what you did right or wrong. And I'll be like, well, you could get out of that or something like this. This is one hand that literally just played itself. With you flopping the nut straight, and a flush draw. The other guy flopped your same straight with 2 pair as well on the board that y'all had a straight. And then the other guy flopping top 2 pair with a nut flush draw on y'all's board. I mean, this is one of those, it was just 3 trains going down the tracks. They're meeting in the middle. I mean, this is one that everybody pretty much had the same equity, and you just got fucked.
Yeah, that sums up my poker this year. And then... My other big hand of note was, so I added on, then my next big hand of note was, it was another PLO bomb pot. I had pocket 3s and 2 hearts again. And the flop came on one board, Jack 3. So I flopped 3s full of jacks. And the other board, I just flop a flush draw. And I think a gutter, but I mean, mainly just the flush draw. Okay. I bet pretty big. I get raised, then I go all in over the top. And so we're both all in. And then he goes, for your sake, you better hope you don't have pocket 3s. And I was like, well, that ain't what you want to hear. Yeah. So he had Jack 3 for jacks full of 3s. Turns quads. I river my flush on the other board, though. So we chop. But like he said, my pocket 3s were actually good on the other board. I didn't even need the flush. He just had quads. But, I mean, to be flopped jacks full of 3s when you have 3s full of jacks is so brutal.
That, I mean, is super, super brutal. Even in a PLO bomb pot where everybody has 4 cards and everybody's playing everything. with 2 boards. I mean, that's still, it ceases to matter. That's still a horrid beat. I mean, luckily you took down the second board, so it didn't hurt you too much. But, I mean, it's got to be kind of disorienting that you just, like, you flopped that well, and then you're still, like, running. I guess, in all honesty, I guess it was all the same, because you had to think that he was ahead on the other board, since you had almost nothing.
Right, true.
But yeah, I was super shocked to see that was pretty bad.
And then, then it was just kind of just betting and missing and betting and missing and calling and missing. And then I got whittled down just to nothing. And then I figured I might as well go all in my PLO hand with $30, and I lost.
That was the easily, not even close to the longest time I've ever seen you like short stacked for that length of time.
Well, we carpooled. I had no money, so my options were beyond limited.
Oh, okay. Well, that'll do it.
I mean, if you don't have I had already looked at the Uber ride. A few times. It was like $14. I was like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, it was So I got into a couple pretty interesting hands. There's a raise to 15. I have King 10 off. I call, and it's 3 ways to the flop. King 10 off is probably pretty light call, but at a place where the ranges are very wide. I mean, I still feel like I'm going to have some suited kings beat, some like 8-10, 9-10, Jack-10 dominated. The flop is 10-8-4, about exactly what I'm looking for. Pre-flop raises to 20. I feel like he's going to be doing this a wide range of hands, even with 2 other players in there. Both me and the other guy call. The turn is a 10. I'm loving this card because I'm like, well, if I'm up against Jack 10, 9-10, Queen 10, I am just this is just golden. He bets again. I only call, and the other player calls. I'm like, well, let me see what's going on here. I'm like, if I have a 10, this is one that I'm so far ahead or so far behind that it really ceases. I don't really feel the need to raise.
Oh yeah, I did that. That's right. I do remember how this hand played out, and I did like your turn play.
Yeah, well, really, in all honesty, I thought you would probably hate it. So that's good to hear.
Once you broke it down, like either you're miles ahead or you're miles behind, then I was like, that's a great point. Because at first I didn't like it, but then whenever you broke it down, I was like, that's very accurate. So I do like that. At once you told me your strategy behind it, because in the moment I was like, eh.
Yeah. The river is another 4. And I'm hating this because I'm like, well, none of these. Now all these 10s just got let off the hook.
Right, absolutely.
He bets 85. I trying to get any value raised to 200. He calls. He has ace 10, and I that 4 was not bad for me. It saved my ass.
So you a complete luck box.
100%. Because just with the way everybody plays at Paramount, I'm just not folding gigantic hands.
Oh no, that's just a cooler.
Yeah,
and it's just cooler that's going to just naturally happen, and you just got super lucky to get bailed out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because people can be like, well, that person could have ace 10, he raised. I guess you could say like, well, when you play king 10 off, that's kind of what you get. But I feel like that's I feel like that's results oriented to that hand.
No, 100%. But like you said, let's say he has queen 10, then you look like a genius if the 4 doesn't pair, right? So
yeah. So it's so I really kind of lucked out on that hand.
And in that game, there's way more combinations of other 10s than there are ace 10 if the ranges are that wide in a 1-2 game. So you're more likely to be up against a lesser 10 than you are exactly ace 10.
Yeah, this is a real hard I tell you what, you go on Reddit or some of the other forums, it's a real hard concept to go off of because they're going off of these exact charts that you'd probably use like in Vegas games. But when the ranges are that wide, you have to adjust a little. I mean, you can't sit there. It's not optimal to sit there and play 10% of hands when everybody's ranges are super wide and just sit there waiting for, aces, kings, queens, jacks, or ace, king, ace, queen. Because a lot of people don't really get that, how to adjust their ranges, it seems like.
Correct. They don't get it, so there's almost no point to even try to explain it to them. But they'll keep crushing the 25-50 cent game, so it's cool.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
but again, it works great on those online games like that, right? But I'm sure you do crush like the online type games. But whenever you're in Texas, you need to adjust to more exploitative than GTO.
Oh yeah, and like if I was like gonna play full time in Vegas, I definitely like King 10 off is definitely a fold. So, but like you say, you gotta adjust to some of these hands a little bit. I have 6, 7, 8, 9 in an Omaha hand, single suited, raised to 15. Everybody calls. It's the flop is golden. One is I love how disguised it is because nobody really raises with 6, 7, 8, 9 in Omaha a lot. Everybody's always doing this with aces or kings. So the flop is 6, 6, 5. I check, hoping because I'm like, well, I got this so locked up. I've got all the draws and I've got the 6. But it checks around. I'd make one turn bet at 70 and everyone folds. So kind of did not love. Wish I could have got a little bit more value out of that, but I was hoping somebody hit that ace and was going to give me a little bit of action.
Definitely rather have it go that way than someone cooler you, so.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Let me see. And I'm looking for... Okay, the next hand I'm going to go over. With pocket... Someone raises to 15. I make a call with pocket 7s. We're going 2 ways to the flop. Three ways to the flop. It's 7, 8, ace, all clubs. Very kind of interesting. Player bets 35. I call. I feel like raising here might be overplaying my hand. So, and I'm like, well, I can just evaluate for if another club comes. Player behind goes all in for 55. I'm like, I don't love this. Because, on all club board, someone's bet 35, someone's called, and then he decides to go all in. This pretty much seems like a flush every single day of the week. But it's $20 more. The other guy calls. I just got odds to draw to a boat here.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
The turn is a blank. The turn is a blank. We both check. The river's a club. So I'm like, anybody who is drawing now, even with just the king of clubs, is now super good. So I'm pretty much about to mug my cards. And sure enough, it checks down, and everybody just basically says they have nothing. One guy had ace king. I don't remember what the other guy had. I have no idea.
I don't think he showed.
Yeah, it's so somehow the set of 7 stayed good on a 4-club board with tons of action. So that was one of the more interesting hands. The last hand I'll go over at Paramount was another one that was just baffling. It's an Omaha pot. I flopped 2 pair. There is no straight, no flush, so I decided to pot it for 65. One player calls. There is a flush draw. The flush hits the turn, and she goes all in, but she only has $15. I'm like, well, this is literally a flush 100% of the time. But now the pot is, she's betting 15 into about 150.
Oh, yeah, it's easy. You just have to call even, I don't know how little equity you need. Not much.
I just figured, I'm going to draw to a boat. I'm going to hit a boat 10% of the time. Let's just try. I missed the river, and I'm like, I almost, again, go to my cards, but I turn it over and say, 2 pair, or you have a flush. And sure enough, she's got nothing. So.
Right, you had a set, right?
No, I had just 2 pair.
That's right, she had top pair with an ace, and then a busted straight draw.
Yeah, never been more shocked to have her turn over and realize I was good. I figured at the very minimum like a crappy flush. So that was it for that. I do have a winning session on that session. Profited about $340. So that was so over those past 2 sessions, at least I am up about $90. So that's kind of nice. Nothing. It's not gonna, I'm not gonna go home and retire, but any profit's always good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I guess that's it, right? Unless you have another session, I don't think you do.
No, gonna try to play a little bit more. I might end up playing Friday. Are you gonna play this week?
Should be playing this Thursday, I believe. This work is killing me, man. I do not know how people work that many hours and still play poker. It's tough.
Yeah, like I say, our sessions have been sporadic lately, but because we have been, there's been a lot of overtime going on at work, but we are getting back on the grind, and we are going to have more hands that and be going over kind of our sessions a little bit more thoroughly coming up. But like I say, I was glad to at least get those 2 sessions and get a little bit back on the grind again.
Yeah, I still have the tournament bug as well, but I overslept my tournament from working the overnight. I woke up and I was like, oh God, no, and just went back to sleep. So,
yeah. Well, the problem is these small buy-in tournaments, like literally everyone I go to, because I went to Crush Live Poker. And Bart, of course, was being like, well, it's okay for fun, but, you're just not going to beat those tournaments. They're just too highly ranked. Then I go to the Jonathan Little had a tournament or a cash game where he's like, cash game is just free money. He's like, why are you in tournaments at that point? And I'm like, well, if all these experts are saying the same exact thing, I'm like, seems dumb for me to be like, no. $150 buy-in tournaments is what I'm going to crush.
Clint is going to run it up. Build the bankroll. Yeah.
It's, it'd be one thing, it's one thing if you could, we could do, the higher buy-in tournaments, the multi-flights that run, if you're in Houston, Dallas, or Austin, you could do these multi-flight tournaments, and I think they're big enough that there is definitely beatable. But that's just not what one is I think cash games is still by far the most profitable, and it works to our schedule way better. So it's so we'll keep trying the cash. Although I don't know, it seems like you really want to do some tournaments too. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I don't know. After last week's episode with Kings losing twice and everything, I really wanted to redeem myself and have a half decent run, but. Talk about not redeeming. Oversleeping the tournament, not great.
That's the kind of work ethic that's going to put you over the top, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, so on that note, this concludes the Texas Poker Podcast. Maybe we'll wake up in time to play a tournament next week.
That was the Texas Poker Podcast. Go ahead and rack up, add time, and we'll see you next week.